We just got a new Nintendo Indie World Showcase, and it was jam-packed with exciting upcoming indie games, including a surprising amount of games that were shadow-dropped during the event. This was an incredibly stacked presentation that showed off almost 20 games in just over 20 minutes. So let's get right into it and break down all the news out of the August 2021 Nintendo Indie World Showcase. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk is a spiritual sequel to the Jet Set Radio games that brings back all the same graffiti action as you grind and tag your way around a city. With its slick cartoon art style and fluid movement and trick mechanics, you could even be forgiven for mistaking this for Jet Set Radio at a glance. Of course, no game in the style of Jet Set Radio would feel complete without a killer soundtrack. And fortunately, it seems like this is something that Bomb Rush Cyberfunk will definitely deliver, as Hideki Naganuma, the composer of Jet Set Radio and its sequel Jet Set Radio Future, will also be composing the music for Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. Toem is a black and white photography game that takes place from an isometric viewpoint while exploring, then switches to first person when you're taking photos. Toem also features beautiful looking hand-drawn animation. This seems like a very chill game that could serve as a great palate cleanser between more fast-paced, action-heavy games. And if you're curious about Toem and want to give it a shot, there's actually a free demo available right now on Steam. Loop Hero is a unique roguelike where instead of controlling the hero, you plan out their journey by placing cards to build the world around them. Loop Hero released on PC back in March, and I've heard nothing but good things about it. I love the pixel art look of Loop Hero, and it sounds like a perfect fit for the Switch, so I'm looking forward to finally trying it out later this year. Far Changing Tides is the follow-up to the critically acclaimed Far Lone Sails. In Far Changing Tides, you'll be captaining a ship and making your way through a flooded world. You'll also be regularly getting off your boat to solve puzzles and explore locations both on ground and underwater. I haven't actually played the first game, but I know it's incredibly well regarded. In fact, the Switch version of Lone Sails is at an 88 on Metacritic. Seeing this trailer really piqued my interest and made me want to go back to the first game, because I think there's something incredibly charming about the look of the Far series. Necro Barista is a visual novel that takes place in a coffee shop in Melbourne known as The Terminal, where the souls of the dead are given a final 24 hours to reside in the world of the living. And after making its debut on PC and iOS last year, it's now making its way to the Switch in the form of Necro Barista Final Pour, a director's cut with additional content and improved visuals. The Switch is the ideal device for visual novels, so I'm sure this will be a great way to experience Necro Barista. Next up, we got a series of rapid fire updates on a bunch of games that were shadow dropped along with the showcase. The first of these games was Garden Story, an incredibly odd game where you play as a sentient grape. Garden Story sees you exploring, fighting and solving puzzles as well as developing a town. It almost feels like a Zelda-like with town building elements. Garden Story boasts great pixel art and is a timed console exclusive for the Switch. Next up, we have another extremely strange game, the dating sim / dungeon crawler hybrid, Boyfriend Dungeon. In Boyfriend Dungeon, your time is divided between hack and slash action and visual novel sequences where your weapons turn into humans and you can romance them. Increasing your bond with a weapon when they're in their human form also increases their strength in dungeons. While this isn't a game for me, it's certainly a very novel concept, and I can safely say there's nothing else like it on the market. And finally, the third game in this Out Today section was the long-awaited Axiom Verge 2. The sequel to one of the best Metroidvanias of recent years. This is a big deal, and not only am I shocked that this game was shadow dropped, I'm also shocked that Nintendo didn't make a bigger deal about this. I mean, this is the kind of announcement that you'd normally close a showcase with. Axiom Verge 2 boasts the same stunning pixel art graphics as its predecessor, and is filled with new weapons and powers to discover, and gorgeous looking environments to explore. I thought the first Axiom Verge was great, so I'm definitely excited to finally check out this sequel. Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon is a match 3 puzzle game spin-off of platformer masterpiece Shovel Knight. Pocket Dungeon features a story mode as well as a 2-player versus mode, and lets you play as 10 different characters from Shovel Knight's memorable cast. I probably wouldn't normally play this kind of game, but as I'm sure you can tell, I absolutely love Shovel Knight, so I'm down to try anything connected to this series. Another game that was shadow dropped at this showcase was Islanders, a minimalistic town builder with a great art style and a very calm soundtrack. Islanders has a very cozy feeling to it and looks super relaxing. Islanders actually released on PC over 2 years ago to positive reviews, so it's great to see it finally migrating to a console so that an entirely new audience can play it. The most exciting news out of this showcase for me was the announcement that Metal Slug Tactics will be coming to Switch, after initially being announced only for PC. I wanted this game to come to Switch so badly. In fact, if you check out my video about Summer Game Fest Kickoff Live, where this was announced, I talked about how much I wanted this game to come to console, and even said I thought it would be a perfect fit for the Switch. Metal Slug Tactics is a strategy spin-off of the classic Run and Gun series, and it's perfectly translated the iconic look and feel of Metal Slug to an entirely different genre, keeping the beautiful pixel art intact. Metal Slug Tactics looks absolutely gorgeous, and reminds me a lot of another tactics game that I loved, Into the Void, so this is definitely going to be a day one purchase for me. I genuinely think that Tetris is a perfect video game, and Tetris Effect is one of the best versions of Tetris ever. Now, after releasing on just about every other platform, it's finally headed for Switch. Tetris Effect is one of the most wildly creative games released in recent years. It masterfully combines the addictive gameplay of Tetris with entrancing visuals and incredible music to create something truly special. Though it isn't surprising that Tetris Effect is excellent, as it was co-produced by Tetsuya Mizuguchi of the Rez and Lumines games. It's also worth noting that this is the connected version of Tetris Effect, which adds multiplayer. I've already played Tetris Effect on PlayStation and Xbox, but I'll definitely be grabbing the Switch version as well. This game is just that good, and this is yet another game that's just perfect for Switch thanks to the endless replayability of Tetris. As we barrel towards the end of this showcase, we got another montage of even more upcoming Nindies, so let's speed through these. Astroneer is a space exploration game that launched on other platforms a couple of years ago, and it's now coming to Switch early next year. In Astroneer, you explore, colonize, and terraform procedurally generated planets. 100 Days is another game that launched on PC a while back that is now making its way to Switch. In 100 Days, you run and maintain a vineyard, producing and selling the best wine possible, which in my opinion means making a good Shiraz. Slime Rancher Plaudible Edition was yet another shadow drop. Slime Rancher is a very fun and laid-back game where you collect, raise and breed slimes, and Switch players can now finally check it out before the sequel drops next year. Lumbar Jack is, well, exactly what it sounds like, a game where you play as a bear with an axe. Though unlike your standard lumberjack, this bear isn't chopping down trees. He's chopping up machinery that humans have set up in nature to send an environmentalist message to greedy and wasteful humans. Curious Expeditions 2 was the 7th shadow drop of the day. This narrative-driven roguelike sees you experiencing procedurally generated stories in a crazy reimagined version of the 19th century, where mysterious islands filled with all sorts of fantastical creatures suddenly appear then vanish. This seems like a cool premise, but I've gotta be honest, I'm not a huge fan of this one's art style. Wacky physics-driven brawler Gang Beasts, one of the most iconic party games of recent years, is also heading to Switch for on-the-go brawling action. The showcase closed out with Eastward, a fantastic-looking action-adventure game set in the near future, where the spread of a deadly toxin has ravaged the human race, driving the population to an all-time low and forcing the surviving humans to seek shelter in underground villages. In Eastward, you play as a miner named John and a mysterious young girl named Sam, and use a train to explore the post-apocalyptic landscape. You can switch between the two on the fly to solve puzzles, and as John, you can fend off the monsters that roam the wasteland with ridiculous weapons like a flamethrower and a frying pan. This is another game with fantastic pixel art, though the first thing that really caught my attention in this trailer was the remarkable music, and I now know why. Eastwood's music is being composed by Joel Korelitz, who previously worked as a composer on Death Stranding, The Unfinished Swan, and Ho Hokum. Eastwood is another timed console exclusive for the Switch, and fortunately we don't have to wait too long to play it. And there you have it. That was everything shown in the August Nindies Direct. I thought this was a great showcase that featured an incredible lineup of games. This was one of those presentations where nearly every game that popped up made me think, wow, that looks great, I definitely want to play that. This was also an immaculately paced showcase. We saw 19 games in just over 20 minutes, and there were never any dips in pacing. There wasn't a single game in here that felt like it didn't belong. I was also shocked by not only how many shadow drops we got, but also by how many of them were noteworthy games. I never would have expected to see Axiom Verge 2 released during this presentation. Not only do I think this was the best Nindies showcase we've seen yet, I also think it's one of the best showcases we've seen this year, period. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, or leave a comment. You can find plenty of other videos on my channel, including my review of Scarlet Nexus, and a video on the biggest games releasing in August. And be sure to stay tuned for my upcoming review of Death's Door.